Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Donald Trump's frontrunner to eventually replace the chairman of the Federal Reserve just undercut and humiliated Trump. Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller appeared on CNBC and said Trump's tariff-heavy trade policy was bad for the economy.
I do see slower growth through the year, mainly because of the tariff impacts. I mean, tariffs are a tax. Taxes are never typically good for growth. So, you're going to get some slow growth out of this.
That comment prompted immediate headlines. Fed Reserve Governor on shortlist to replace Jerome Powell bluntly calls Trump tariffs a tax on growth. Most economists agree, but not the Trump team. The president says his tariffs have boosted growth.
Because without the tariffs, this country is in serious, serious trouble. We've taken in almost $17 trillion of investment is coming in.
That's just false. $17 trillion in new investments? The entire U.S. gross domestic product is $29 trillion. But never mind Donald Trump's lies. The tariff revenues have also been a talking point for Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Free market, people are getting addicted to tariff income. I've been saying $300 billion, but I think it could be much higher. Every $300 billion is 1% of GDP.
Except, as experts, including Phil Gordon, have noted, collecting $300 billion in tariffs does not add 1% to GDP. It just transfers it from U.S. consumers and businesses to the government, while making goods more expensive, hurting exporters, and creating an exemption process ripe for corruption. And the worst thing is Bessent knows that. But back to Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller. His matter-of-fact comments about tariffs being a tax on growth are particularly stunning given his status in Trump world until now. Waller was considered Trump's favorite to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell, in part because Waller was one of just two Fed governors to dissent from the Fed Reserve's decision in July to hold interest rates steady. Waller wanted a cut. Trump did as well. And going into the interview on this day, Waller was treated on CNBC like potential Trump royalty.
Let's get to Steve Leisman, who is with one of the potential Fed picks, who seem to have gotten more popular as time has been going by. And even before he was mentioned, we had talked about him and talking about cuts way before that. Chris Waller. Hi, Steve.
Yes, we had Joe, and I am joined by Fed Governor Chris Waller, who, because he's right here, he's my pick right now. Thanks for joining us, Governor Waller.
The interview started off smoothly and was unremarkable. Waller and the CNBC host spoke about general economic theories, and Waller safely deflected when asked about Lisa Cook, a Federal Reserve governor who Donald Trump fired. Given the circumstances, it's not clear if Trump had the authority to get rid of Cook, and she is now suing Trump to try and stay on.
What's your reaction to that? Do you still consider her to be a Federal Reserve governor?
Let's see, this is in the courts. This is no longer an issue for me. The courts will be deciding soon how this is going to play out, so I really just don't have any comment.
Has she been at work?
I don't really have any comment on this.
All right,
I haven't been at work that much. I've been in Jackson Hole in Miami and everywhere else, so.
Waller then got past another politically dangerous question about his potential candidacy for the post of Federal Reserve Chairman.
You are one of the people who have been named as a potential candidate for Federal Reserve Chair. Have you met with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent?
I've met with Scott in the past, but it wasn't an interview for this job. It was just more of talking, and particularly some of my speeches and things like that. So it was a while back, but we haven't had any kind of interview yet.
Do you have one scheduled? Is that...
No, I don't at this moment.
Again, Waller handled a thorny issue calmly and diplomatically. But then, after about 8 or 9 minutes, Waller was asked about tariffs and said they slow down the economy. Waller tried to soften his answer by saying he doesn't believe the U.S. is headed to a Trump recession.
Yeah, I don't see recession in my forecast at all, but I do see slower growth through the year, mainly because of the tariff impacts. I mean, tariffs are a tax.
Tariffs are a tax. But that kind of statement is blasphemy at the Trump White House. And Waller didn't stop there. He pointed out that workforce or labor demand under Trump is slowing down and has been hidden by low unemployment rates.
All the labor supply is doing is masking this declining, falling labor demand, which from a Fed's point of view is not a good thing. Our goal is not to say, hey, the unemployment rate is great while labor demand and job creation is falling. That's not what our objective is. It's maximum employment.
Waller also spoke about the need for the Federal Reserve to maintain its independence, a slap at Donald Trump's effort to control the Fed.
The independence of the Fed is critical for everything we do. And, there are things that are going on that make people worried. But I still believe that we have an independent Fed. People that are appointed will behave that way and act in an apolitical fashion. So I think no matter what, the Fed will maintain its independence.
According to several reports, Waller talked himself right out of Donald Trump's good graces. The first 8 minutes or so of the interview were not controversial and were music to the ears of the Trump White House. The final 2 minutes were a disaster, though, for Trump, simply because Waller spoke a universal truth about tariffs, added a swipe about slowing labor demand, and embraced Fed independence. And in Donald Trump's world, failing to adhere to Trump's delusions or fantasies about anything, including the economy, is considered a betrayal. So Waller, by some accounts, is no longer a Trump favorite or potential pick to be the next Fed chair. Waller won credibility among economic policy wonks, but he committed Trump MAGA political heresy. The term of the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, goes until next May. Powell says he will not leave until then, and Donald Trump has said that he will not fire Powell, even though Trump continues to disparage Powell. Still, the Fed leadership question for 2026 is full of palace intrigue. And now, there is frustration at the Trump White House, as a favorite to take over the Fed has undercut Trump merely by publicly speaking the truth. By the way, Donald Trump's Homeland Security Secretary Noem just stumbled over her own lies and is getting called out.
Won't speak to the specifics of the operations that are planned in other cities, but I do know that LA wouldn't be standing today if President Trump hadn't taken action. Then that city would have burned down if left to the devices of the mayor and the governor of that state.
California Democrat Robert Garcia.
Obviously, Los Angeles, besides having seen decreases over the last 10, 20, 30 years overall in crime, the fact that LA wouldn't have been standing had Donald Trump not intervened is a fabrication. All they do is they look at the TV and they lie.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Celtic, who wrote of Noem, "She's an embarrassment. America's burning daily from rump, the GOP, the Supreme Court, and the entire joke of a cabinet." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about a Trump favorite to be the next Fed chair, humiliating and undercutting Trump by stating basic economic facts. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.